Let's now move on to the next speaker who will discuss legal frameworks in relation to PSO. Our speaker, fondly known as Attorney Erap, is a prominent legal professional and founding partner of Estrada and Aquino Law, specializing in education law. He graduated with honors in political science from the Colegio de San Juan de Letran in 1999, earned his Bachelor's of Law from the University of Santo Tomas in 2005, and was admitted to the Philippine Bar that same year. He completed an executive program on transforming higher education leaders through effective policy reforms at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore. As a policy consultant, Attorney Estrada has played a key role in the enactment of significant education legislations, including the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2023, the UNIFAS Law in 2015, the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education in 2017, and the No Permit, No Exam Prohibition Act in 2024. He also serves as a counsel for various educational institutions and associations, including St. Paul College Pasig, University of Perpetual Health System, Colegio San Agustin Makati, National Collegiate Athletic Association or NCAA, Philippine Accrediting Association of Schools, Colleges, and Universities, Private Education Assistance Committee, and the Coordinating Council of Private Educational Associations or COCUPEA, just to name a few. He also served as the Chief Legal Officer for the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM2, and writes a weekly column, The Legal Mind, in the Manila Times. He has authored 3 law books on education law and is a sought-after lecturer and law professor dedicated to advancing education through legal expertise and policy advocacy. To discuss the topic, navigating the legal landscape, issues and concerns of PSO, please give a round of applause to Attorney Joseph Noel Estrada.
Maraming salamat at magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Hapon po ngayon dito sa Pilipinas. I hope it's not an odd time wherever you are. Thank you to the Commission on Filipino Overseas and good afternoon to Secretary Dante Clink-Ang II and to all who made this forum possible. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat again. And thank you for inviting me. And actually, this is my first time to engage with our Philippine schools overseas. With the I checked our roster of clients here in our law office, and so far we have not represented any Philippine schools overseas except for a few training sessions, I think, no, for some system schools also who have also trained many of our teachers in the Middle East. So I'm also looking forward to some engagements with you after the presentation, so I can also learn about the specific issues that you encounter there. As you may know, our education sector in the Philippines is based only on one system. No? There's only one Philippine education system, and it is composed of 2 sectors, the public and the private sectors. And the private sector, it's usually non-stock, non-profit, and also the proprietary or for-profit schools. But your schools actually is a subsector, is a unique subsector, no? Because you are while you are non-government and you are also a private, you also belong to the private education sector. You are in another state, no? You're in another territory. That's why, I think the first takeaway is that the Manual of Regulations for Private Educational Institutions, or DepEd Order 88 series of 2010, you should have a copy of that issuance of the Department of Education. But you also have to be very careful in looking at some of the provisions there, especially those that are location sensitive, no? Because those may not apply to you. And also those that require certain permits for certain venues or locations or establishment of your school, that may also have to defer, no, to the policies and rules applicable in the jurisdiction where your school is. Having said that, nevertheless, it is important, most of all, that you have to comply with the requirements of the Department of Education on curriculum, no? And especially because you cater to Filipino students, and that the purpose really is for mobility, because the expectation is that after our kababayans or their parents have worked overseas, when they come back to the Philippines, then the students should be able to continue their studies here without any disruption, because they also gone through the same curriculum offered here in the Philippines. Now, I'll take this opportunity. I know I have a very limited time, but I also want to take this opportunity to share with you my deck or presentation on empowering our private education sector. And that, of course, includes you. I'd have to defer to our authorities from the Department of Education on specific matters on DepEd guidelines. But what I will present to you today or this afternoon is more of allowing you the latitude and think of more creative approaches and innovation on how you can run your schools. Of course, within what is reasonable and what is allowed by our Department of Education. Okay, I hope everyone's okay there wherever you are and listening to the presentation. I'll just share my deck. Okay, so I hope you can see my deck now. So this is entitled "That Schools May Thrive" and Reasonable Regulation Revisited. Okay. All right. So, whenever private education administrators come together like this one, organized by the CFO, I always say that this sector actually help government in moving the guideposts. So, meaning we explore new grounds and it creates space for innovation, because we talk about what we can possibly do within the boundaries of the law. And this is actually what we need now in education, a space for creativity and innovation. And of course, this also applies to all of you in various places in the world, because again, you remain as Philippine schools. And because of this, you contribute to policy making. So that's why this is very important. And I will also take note of your sharings this afternoon if given the chance, because apart from being a lawyer of private schools here in the Philippines, we also help in advocating for policies that support the development of our private education sector here. Okay, so first takeaway that I'd like to share with everyone is that education is invested with public interest. Lagi ko pong sinasabi sa ating mga eskwelahan dito, mga private schools, na kapag sila po ay lalapit sa akin at lalapit sa amin, sa mga asosasyon ng mga private schools dito, at kung ang purpose ay para maiwasan ang government regulation, particularly DepEd, then that is not possible. No? I always say that, no, you cannot escape government regulation because education is imbued or invested with public interest. Although we operate as a private entity or a private enterprise, if you will, and no government money is used in the establishment and in the operation of our schools, still, education is imbued with public interest because it promotes the general welfare. The Supreme Court, in many cases, said that the state has a high responsibility for education of its citizens, meaning education, and has an interest in prescribing regulations to promote quality education and consequently the welfare of the people. Kasi po po-promote ng general welfare and education. And in that sense, it is in the exercise of the state's police power. Yung pong police power, although madalas nating naririnig, and we equate it to arrests and and detentions or imprisonments. It has nothing to do. Police power has nothing to do with that. No, police power is actually the power of our government or power of our state to promote the general welfare of the people. And of course, education is part of that. Kaya po kahit tayo ay private schools, hindi po tayo makakaiwas sa government regulation if that is the purpose. At ganun din po sa inyo, no? It applies to all of you even if you are situated outside of the Philippines, because again, you are implementing Philippine education there for our kababayans. And so therefore, we cannot also escape government regulation, because again, education is part of the police power of the state, or the power to enact or laws or policies that promote the general welfare of the people. And of course, education is part of that, no? Promotion of general welfare. Ay, hindi po general, ibang general po yan. Nako, hindi pa nabura ng aking staff. But anyway, pampagising. The state recognizes the complementary roles of public and private institutions in the educational system. Ito po yung constitutional provision. This is the basis of all regulations applicable to our schools, no, both public and private. Ito po yung mandato ng ating batas. Ang sabi po ng ating batas, ang ating po mga eskwelahan, particularly our private schools, should be subject only to reasonable supervision and regulation. Malaki pong kaibahan yan with our other enterprises, our other businesses, trades, and even exercise of professions, no? Na kung saan ay nire-regulate lamang ito basta ng ating pamahalaan, because again, it relates to the public in general. Pero pagdating sa edukasyon, pagdating po sa education, ang mandato ng batas ay hindi lang basta regulation, no? Kundi reasonable supervision and regulation. No? Ibig sabihin po nito is that it is not subject to control, no? Absolute control of the government. Just like, for example, other enterprises or other businesses, na katulad nga na nasabi ko, for example, entertainment sites, or gambling places. Of course, iba yung regulation yan. The government will always be interested there because it is frequented by the public, and all those schools are also open to the public and offers its education services to the public. It is subject to reasonable supervision and regulation of the government. So tayo lang po ang sector sa ating pong bansa na sinasubject sa reasonable supervision and regulation. And you know, that term, sometimes when I discuss this, I get a lot of questions and comments that, the word reasonable may be too subjective. And for example, ano pong reasonable sa atin may not be in the same meaning of what reasonable is with others. And also government sector and the private sector have clashing interpretations on what reasonable regulation is. But in many jurisprudence or many cases decided by the Supreme Court, sinasabi din po ng ating pong Supreme Court na ang yung pong reasonable supervision and regulation is a collective term, and it is not subject to interpretation. Ang sinasabi po dito is that reasonable supervision and regulation is not control, no? Ito pong nandito sa slide ngayon, this is an excerpt from the framers of our constitution. Ito pong magandang takeaway po sa mga owners ng schools natin dyan at mga administrators. Ang sabi po ay ang reasonable regulation, no? It does not include the right to manage, dictate, overrule, prohibit, or dominate, no? With reference to our regulators. Hindi daw dapat ito saklaw ng pagmamanage ng ating eskwelahan, pagdikta kung anong dapat gawin, pag-overrule, meaning pag-set aside ng ating mga decisions, pag-prohibit or dominate, no? Because the internal governance of our schools remains with our board of directors or board of trustees or owners, no? Not with the government. Now, some of you might ask, no? So anong matitira pang mandato ng ating gobyerno kung lahat pala yan ay hindi saklaw ng reasonable supervision and regulation? Well, the Constitution also, our framers of our Constitution also interprets reasonable supervision as the power of oversight. Meaning, sabi nila, it includes the authority to check but not to interfere. At also, in many cases, the Supreme Court also said that reasonable supervision or regulation involves external governance, meaning setting standards. So external governance, setting standards, for example, for curriculum, setting standards for our institution, and it applies to everyone, no? So, and if we don't comply, there is a sanction. Dito sa dito sa Pilipinas, maaari kang maipasara, maaaring masuspindi yung iyong recognition. And I think that applies also to a certain extent to our Philippine schools overseas. No, you may be asked to discontinue offering our Philippine education curriculum if we do not subscribe, no, to the minimum standards prescribed by the Department of Education. But then again, what is the difference between that and reasonable supervision and regulation? No? Ang difference po nun is that while the DepEd can provide sanctions, it cannot substitute its own discretion or decision-making to that of our school administrators or school authorities. Again, for as long as those decisions are within the standards prescribed by the Department of Education. Again, power of oversight. In no way should supervision and regulation be equated to state control, according also to the Supreme Court. And in one case, sabi pa ng Supreme Court, to be reasonable, yun daw po mga regulations should not be arbitrary, capricious, and unfair. Arbitrary, meaning without any reason, it is unilaterally being implemented without consultation, without public hearing. It is capricious if there is no fundamental or reasonable basis. It's out of whim, and unfair, no, without looking at the intent or without looking at the consequence or impact to the entire education sector. In the case of Lupanco versus Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court also said that pakinggan niyo po ito, yung last, basahin niyo po yung last, no, sentence. Sabi ni Supreme Court, to be valid, yun daw pong rules and regulations that are implemented upon us must be reasonable and fairly adapted to secure the end in view. And most importantly, sabi dito, if shown to bear no relation or reasonable relation to the purposes for which they are authorized to be issued, then they must be held to be invalid. No? So, sometimes you have to go through certain details, no, of regulations in order to test whether these are within the boundaries of what is reasonable. No? Sabi nga dun sa sinayit ko na kaso kanina, kailangan merong relationship, no? Merong relation between the objective and the regulation itself. If there is no relation, then it should be held invalid. No? And probably it is an overreach. No? Like for example, a policy that says it is for quality education, pero for example, it is already, for lack of a better term, intruding into the internal operations of a private school, then most probably it is already overreach. Right? If it has no relation to the broad objective of quality education. So, ang mga examples yan dito sa Pilipinas, sa mga reklamo ng ibang private schools, halimbawa daw yung bintana is opening out, no, instead of inward. No? So minsan nagiging part pa yun ng debate, no, for being part of some deficiencies, no, whenever there is a monitoring being conducted in their schools. Now, in the case of Son versus UST, the Supreme Court clarified that the Constitution merely allows state regulation and supervision of schools or educational institutions and not the deprivation of rights. Ito po ay may kinalaman sa establishment, no, ng mga schools. At when a school is established, it has or its juridical personality, no, is also created, no, or born, no, para siyang tao din, nagkakaroon siya ng juridical existence that is separate and distinct from the owners or the incorporators, no, of the educational corporation or entity, no? And it has, once it is created, then it has the right to exist, no, for as long as it wants, no? So yung pong regulation should not be tantamount to cutting short, no, the juridical existence of educational institutions. Again, that is the first and foremost right of educational institutions, to sustain its operations and to continue its operations for as long, again, as it complies with reasonable government regulations. So here, in this slide, it says that on top of the rights of educational institutions is the right to govern itself, no? Kasi meron kayong mga school administrators in place. Meaning, to promulgate your own internal rules on admission and discipline of students. Hire qualified teachers and personnel. Design your curriculum and determine school activities, both curricular and co-curricular. Again, with the caveat that, or with the condition that all of this shall be subject to compliance with DepEd regulations or orders setting standards. No? But again, for as long as you comply within the minimum standards or regulations, you have the wide latitude on exercising all of these rights, designing your curriculum, putting in place your own policies for admission and discipline of students, etc. School authorities should not simply defer to regulations before they govern their schools. Otherwise, these regulations become controls or restrictions. Ito po yung lagi kong advice, no? When private schools and school owners have something in mind that is innovative and unique, I think you should and you know that it is not against any existing law. You should be able to present that and implement that even if there is no existing DepEd order, for example, providing for certain standards for its implementation. Rightfully so, because it is unique, no? And probably it has not been implemented yet. Kapag ako po ay nilalapitan ng isang eskwelahan at meron silang unique na idea, I always say that, you have to complete your staff work, make sure that all questions will be asked, no, in case DepEd asks you about it, and you prepare for it and you inform DepEd about it as a matter of courtesy. But, you should be allowed to do it, no, for as long as it is not against the law or any existing regulation, because that is a space for innovation, no? Otherwise we will remain stagnant, di ba, if there is no innovative way of delivering education. Kaya ito po yung paborito kong advice sa mga private schools, no? When it is not prohibited by law or any law, then it is allowed, no? This is a principle in administrative law, and of course it covers educational institutions and the Department of Education. Kapag walang batas na nagbabawal sa isang bagay, ay hindi po ito pwedeng ipagbawal, no? Not even by a department regulation. This applies to all administrative agencies, not only with DepEd, no? This is from the context of innovation and creativity. Of course, dapat hindi rin ito abusuhin, no? If you have something, if you are thinking of something to circumvent or to go around existing regulations or to cut the lines, no, so to speak, to evade government regulation, hindi rin naman po pwede yun, no? Ang sinasabi po natin dito, pag meron kang isang bagay na naisip na unique and innovative and there is no law that prohibits it, you should be able to continue with it, no? Without any restriction. All right. And sometimes yan po ang pinagsisimulan pa ng mga bagong standards, no? When it works, and there's always something new, no, in the delivery of education. Now, yung pong sinabi ko na yon, no, na principle na yon, this is supported by jurisprudence also, particularly the Knights of Rizal case, no? But without elaborating on that, I'll share with you some of the excerpts, no, from that case. And starting with this one, no, sabi dun sa kaso na yon, what is not expressly or impliedly prohibited by law may be done, except when the act is contrary to morals, customs, and public order. This takeaway is important, and you may not realize it yet, but this is important, especially because, again, you belong to a unique subsector of Philippine education. Nandiyan kayo sa ibang bansa, no? And I think you will contribute to policy making if you also explore better implementation and delivery of our education there with the proper monitoring of the Department of Education here. Kasi for sure, hindi lahat ng regulations na applicable dito sa Pilipinas, lalo na sa pag-monitor ng mga schools, no, dito ay maaring hindi may mga built-in limitations ang ating gobyerno. But of course, you can help with that by exploring how we can balance innovation with of course proper monitoring of our government here from the Philippines. No? And going back, no, ano pang basis ng ng principle na yan, no, that we should be allowed to explore and innovate and be creative without fearing control or restriction for as long as it is allowed by law. It actually points to democracy, no? In simple terms. Ang sabi ng Supreme Court is it is fundamental in a democratic society to protect the weak against the strong, the minority against the majority, and individual citizen against the government. In essence, this principle, which is the foundation of a civilized society under the law, prescribes, ito yung pinaka maganda dyan, that the freedom to act can be curtailed only through law. Ibig sabihin, kapag walang batas na nagbabawal, dapat po pwedeng gawin yan. Again, for as long as it is not against public policy, good customs, and public order. Without this principle, ang sabi ng Supreme Court, those who can shout the loudest or those who can gather the biggest crowd or the most number of internet trolls, no? Sila yung masusunod, no? And civil liberties of citizens may be arbitrarily and whimsically trampled upon by shifting passions, no? Now, another important takeaway is that, of course, our education institutions are corporate entities and that you have the right to establish your own policies, academic and otherwise, unhampered by external controls or pressure, except only, again, when it is contrary to law and that it is below the minimum standards set by our government pertaining to programs, curriculum, and the institution. Now, I'll share with you this excerpt from a case. I think this is from Ateneo versus Capulong. The importance of academic judgment, no, of our school administrators. No? Sabi ni Supreme Court, yung pong mga academic judgment na ginagawa, no, yung academic judgment of our school authorities, they deserve recognition and respect. And it is usually not subject to judicial scrutiny or litigation. Dapat hindi daw siya sinasubject sa adjudication. No? Because only when there is marked arbitrariness will the courts interfere with the academic judgment of the school. Meaning, there is really no color of due process, not even a modicum of fairness. Yung talagang there is grave abuse of academic judgment, no, or discretion of school authorities. That's the only time that the courts will interfere and look into this decision making of our schools. Otherwise, sabi ni Supreme Court, we leave it to the academic. No? Sometimes students may not appreciate it as something that is fair. But again, even if it is not attended by arbitrariness, no, marked arbitrariness, the courts will actually leave it as it is. No? Sabi nga nila, like if you have two math teachers teaching the same subject in the same grade level pero magkaibang section, for sure magkaibang grades ang bibigay yan. No? Dahil ang isang teacher ay maaring stricto sa pag-grade, yung isa naman ay maaring very generous. But that is all part of academic judgment. And the courts will always defer to the academic judgment of schools. Again, this is not limited to those that are purely academic. No, this also applies to discipline and all academic and non-academic matters. No, that our school authorities exercise, no, in the usual operations of the school. Ang sabi ng Supreme Court, no, in explaining this principle, bakit hindi natin laging dapat pakikialaman ang academic decisions ng mga eskwelahan, mapupuno daw ang ating mga korte, no, ng mga reklamo ng mga estudyante na bumagsak at mga natanggal sa eskwelahan from the private schools if we will entertain judicial challenges of academic judgment made by our school administrators and school authorities. Ayan, sabi daw, the courts will be swamped with petitions for admission from thousands refused admission every year and thousands who flunked and were dropped would also be petitioning the courts for judicial review of grades. And that is important because, because if the courts are adopting that principle, no, usually a hands-off policy when it comes to academic judgment and only subjects to judicial scrutiny sparingly whenever required. And that may also be true with our regulators, especially with the Department of Education, because of the complementarity principle. Ito pong sinishare ko dito sa screen. This is part of our manifestations, no, on behalf of the private education sector during the workshop with the Department of Education on Department Order number 6, series of 2024. So I also would like to encourage our Philippine schools to get a copy of that. No, very instructive and very empowering also, no, from our Department of Education, our current dispensation of the department, and it is very helpful. It provides the principles of complementarity that hopefully will be operationalized now across all levels of the department. And ngayon ko lang din naisip, no, dapat talaga expand yan pati sa Philippine schools overseas, no, because you're also part of that complementarity between the public and the private sectors. Ibig pong sabihin yan ay dapat nagko-complement, no, yung existence ng public schools at yung private schools, and not competing with each other, no, not trying to compete with government resources, and always mindful with the effect on the other sector whenever something major is being implemented, no. So again, across all levels, and sometimes it's not even just about government subsidy, but it is also about reasonable regulation, just being fair in terms of regulation, reasonable regulation, as we have very limited access, no, to public funds as compared to those that are fully funded by our government, no, the public school system. But again, I leave more of the reading of the DO6 series of 2024 to all of you because of some time constraints. I'm only down to 15 minutes. I'll discuss this last principle. Then we'll go to some, we'll just breeze through some regulations that are very specific to you, no? But again, I would like to hear more from you, no? Also. Now, this last point is about, while our schools are governed by DepEd orders and regulations, government regulations applicable to our Philippine schools overseas, and even the Constitution, and even those cases that I've cited, we are also governed by the principles of agreement or contract. Because education is also a contract. When a student enrolls in our school, a contract is immediately forged. No? May nabuo agad na kontrata. And why is that important? Because, in a contract, the terms and conditions of that contract are said to be the law between the parties. No? Ibig sabihin, aside from those laws, meron din tayong mga certain agreements. At sa isang education contract, ang parties dyan ay yung eskwelahan at yung magulang, no, on behalf of their minor child or children enrolled in our schools. And that being a contract, it is said to be bilateral. No? There is reciprocity. Ibig sabihin, may obligasyon yung eskwelahan, may obligasyon din yung magulang at yung mga estudyante. And when there is a breach of that obligation, normally there are consequences. No? Halimbawa, hindi nakabayad sa tuition, siyempre may consequence yun, no? At halimbawa naman ay nakakommit ng serious offense yung estudyante and violated a certain policy of the school, that is also a breach of their obligation to follow school rules and regulations. Meron din pong karampatang consequence, no? Maaari sila magkaroon ng sanctions based on the school handbook, or maaari silang hindi natanggapin ulit, no, because of the seriousness of an offense, no? At marami pa pong iba, no? Marami pang iba. But the idea really is, because it is a contract, then students and parents should follow school rules and regulations. And sabi nga nila, there is mutuality in education contracts. And more or less, both parties, meaning the school authorities and the parents and the students, they more or less stand on equal footing. No one is superior over the other. Kaya minsan nakakalungkot pag may mga nagsasabi na magulang na dapat silang masunod kasi sila yung nagbabayad ng tuition. I think that is not aligned with mutuality of contracts. No? Because even as they fulfill their obligation to pay, the schools also, no, have to follow their own obligation, which is to provide quality education. So pareho silang may obligasyon, no. The the contract is reciprocal, no, hindi po one-way street, no, hindi nag-a-apply sa isa lang, no. Pareho po silang merong obligasyon. Okay. I already said this, no, that of course when both parties fail on their obligation, there's usually a consequence. So kung ikaw ay private school and part of your obligation is deliver quality education and you have not complied with the government regulation, may consequence yan. Maari kang mapasara, maari kang mapatigil ng ating gobyerno, no, sa pag implement mo ng government education program. Now, I'll just go through briefly, no, through some just direct you to some provisions, no, that are very specific and applicable to our Filipino schools overseas. Ito pong DO40 series of 1994, medyo matagal na po, no. I don't know kung merong bago pang ito, bihira kasing nagagamit, pero this is an old, no, guidelines on the establishment and operation of Philippine elementary and secondary schools abroad, no? And pag tiningnan niyo po yung nandito, nilalaman nito, halos kapareho lang din, no, ng mga requirements ng ating mga local schools situated here in the Philippines. Again, that's why I started with that long presentation and on so that you are also trained, no, on how to look and read, no, look at certain orders that are applicable to you and how you can innovate, kasi more or less maraming gray area talaga po sa inyo dahil kayo ay, again, you are situated in another country but you're actually governed by our regulations here applicable to our local school situated here in the country, no? So you have to be organized, no? Sabi dito sa DO40, you have to be organized as a private juridical entity, to be incorporated as a private corporation, duly registered with the Philippine Securities and Exchange Commission, permit from the host government, meaning from the Department of Education, of course through the CFO as the secretariat, no, of that committee. And the governing board should be composed of Filipinos, and most importantly, I think ito yung non-negotiable curricula required for private schools in the Philippines. Pero akin po, ang personal take ko, I'm sure may mga ibang magtatanong sa inyo, like, how can you, for example, talaga I think merong mga certain deviations from curriculum because you're in another country, particularly those that require Filipino language. For sure, may mga ganon, no? May mga ganong innovation. I think hindi naman, kung ikaw ay medyo lalagpas dun sa requirement, no? Ito lang po ang aking take, no? Ikaw ay lalabas ng konti dun sa required curriculum, pwede pa rin yun. Kaya lang, may effect yung sa estudyante na pag bumalik siya sa Pilipinas, no? So again, some remediation might be required, no? Baka bago siya ma-accept sa same grade level kung saan ay andun siya, no, bago siya umalis diyan sa bansa, no, kung nasaan po kayo. But hindi naman po yun palagay ko, no, magiging talagang hadlang, no, para hindi mo mai offer yung basic education, Philippine basic education in the country where you are now, no. Kasi talagang hindi maiwasan yun actually kahit dito sa Pilipinas prescribed na yung curriculum, medyo merong pa rin mga konting curriculum design na medyo naiiba doon at pinagpapaalam din sa DepEd, no. Halimbawa na lamang po yung ating mga Christian schools at mga Catholic schools, so yung GMRC, yung values education, syempre iba rin ang content niyan from our faith-based schools, pero hindi naman po ibig sabihin noon na yung kanilang curriculum ay illegal na. So I think along the same concept or principle, we can still be allowed to innovate, no, and explore ways on how we can implement our basic education curriculum with some deviations allowable, no, deviations for lack of a better term. Okay, now I'd like to direct you naman to the Manual of Regulations for Private Schools, the O88 series of 2010. Yan po ay napakakapal na document. I'm sure karamihan sa inyo ay nabasa na rin yan, but for those who do not have yet a copy, please try secure a copy of that. Available naman po yan sa internet, no? Because you have to read it because again, the provisions there essentially apply to all of you because you are a private school, a Philippine private school, although you are situated elsewhere. No? So yung mga iba na hindi location sensitive, in essence and in principle, should also apply to you. Okay, now I'll move um, straight to some new legislations. But before that, no, baka lang merong matanong and ito mamaya baka may mga interesado din na malaman no, kung applicable ba yung ating vouchers no, sa ating mga estudyante no, na sa ating mga uh, Philippine schools overseas na nagko-qualify no, or they are eligible also to receive senior high school vouchers under the voucher program or even the Education Service Contracting or the ESC. No? At I think sa ngayon wala pa, hindi pa. Pero yan po ay isa sa pinupush din no, ng Private Education Assistance Committee or PEAC on how we can also allocate no, subsidies and grants for qualified students in PSOs. No? So dapat magkaroon ng paraan na maabot po kayo ng magandang government program po na ito. No? Although may mga konting ano pa, may mga konting bagay pa na maaari na ma-improve sa implementation because no program is perfect anyway. But this program, for example, the Senior High School Voucher Program has been implemented since 2015 when the K-12 law was enacted and the first senior high school program was rolled out. And since has benefited around 6 million students in the program. Currently, it has 1.3 million beneficiaries in senior high school. So again, hopefully, ito ay makaabot din sa mga pamilyang Pilipino at mga estudyante sa ating mga Philippine schools overseas. I'll go straight to this new legislation na enacted, no? RA 11984. I think many of your schools also, many of you encounter some problems related to this. Ito po yung prohibiting the no permit, no exam policy in schools. So bibigay ko na lang po yung summary. Ang batas po na ito ay pinagbabawal na ang hindi pagbibigay ng exam, no, any exam sa isang estudyante on account of unpaid financial obligation. Ibig sabihin, hindi nakabayad, hindi mo na pwedeng hindi pag-examine. No? Now, ito po ay may mga certain conditions. No? Bago mag-avail yung isang bata ng benefit na yan, no? Na dapat siya makapag-exam despite non-payment of financial obligation, dapat makapag-present muna siya ng Certificate of Disadvantaged Status. No? At yung certificate po na yan ay nakukuha sa DSWD. No? Kung dito po sa Pilipinas yan na nakalagay sa batas, kukunin mo sa local government. So I don't know kung sa PSO saan kukunin yan. No? Baka sa consulate or sa embassy. But the idea is dapat mag-present yung magulang ng Certificate of Disadvantaged Status at yun ay papakita sa school so that the school will honor it and allow the student to take the exam. Now, ito pong provision na ito sa batas ay hindi po ibig sabihin na nawawala na yung utang ng estudyante, kundi pinag-exam lamang. Pero dapat pa rin niyang bayaran yan within the school year. And most importantly, that's why I'm sharing this to you, is that if the students or the parents still fail to pay at the end of the year, the law allows the withholding of transfer credentials of the student. Ibig sabihin, hindi dapat makakalipat yung estudyante sa isang eskwelahan, pribado man or public school, dahil may karapatan yung eskwelahan na kanyang pinagkakautangan na i-withhold yung transfer credentials hanggang sila ay mabayaran or masettle or magkaroon ng arrangement or agreement on how it shall be settled. At ito po ay hindi na ito po ay pinagtibay na ng batas dito sa No Permit No Exam Act. So patas naman yung batas, naglagay din siya ng security measures para hindi po maabuso ng ilan na kaya naman pong magbayad ngunit hindi magbabayad dahil alam nilang pwede naman silang lumipat anytime. So again, the law is fair. it provides remedies to both the students and the schools, no, in this regard, pertaining to financial obligations and the right of the students to take the examinations on time. No? If they are suffering from any or they're victims of any calamity, force majeure, or of any emergency, then they should be allowed, provided that they can show a certificate of disadvantaged status. Yung pong IRR na nito ay ginagawa pa lamang, malapit na po yatang mailabas ng Department of Education. Hopefully, meron nga din pong provisions applicable to our PSOs, no? Kasi kayo din po ay eskwelahan. All right, so ito naman, just dadaanan lang po natin ito before I end some of the pertinent executive orders on English as medium of instruction. Of course, meron tayong provision din sa K-12 law, no, on the primary language and the use of the mother tongue, no. Again, I'd like to hear from you kung anong mga issues dito. So, maraming salamat po. I hope you found the presentation useful. Maraming salamat po ulit sa inyo lahat.